Hi, my name is Nellie Howard Ossi. I am with the Jacksonville-based design firm James Michael Howard. Our retail store division is Mrs. Howard. We have 5 stores across the Southeast, and I now am designing a collection with Sherrill Furniture. I got very lucky. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I decided I was going to be an art history major, went through the whole process, and graduated right at the top of the recession. So my parents were like, great, you've got an art history degree in a time when nobody could get a job. So I called home and I was like, hey, mom and dad, can I have a job? So I moved home. I actually moved out here to the beaches area. I grew up in town, but I moved out here to the beaches area almost 15 years ago. And I came to work at our Jacksonville Beach location with my mom. So, just sort of started out as a shop girl, just doing whatever needed to be done. And then sort of naturally over the years, I started participating on installs, project assistance, project management. So it just sort of evolved over the years. Now I'm the manager for the store. I buy for our stores. I basically do whatever needs to be done, but now I've got my own design projects all over the country. I still help Phoebe, my mom, manage some of her larger scale projects. But I am a little bit of a jack of all trades kind of for whatever our home base needs. When I was 7, my dad found this beautiful, well, it was not beautiful at the time. He found this very old building. It was an old pick and save grocery store, and they saw the potential in it. They bought the building and he turned it into a design firm. But my mom had the idea to showcase room by room vignettes so that his clients could understand and see his vision, because my dad is an interior design genius, truly. His moldings and his millwork, everything he does is so intricate and so well designed, but it's difficult to translate that sometimes to people who maybe can't visualize that way. So my mom said, let's transform this place into a showroom that, you can show your clientele, show your designs to your clients. So then that evolved into the retail store, Mrs. Howard. So my mom started merchandising it as the store. That was our first store in Jacksonville, Florida. I guess almost 30 years ago. And then we opened our second location in Jacksonville Beach about 10 years after that. And everything just sort of exploded from there. We then opened 2 locations in Atlanta. We've got another one in Charlotte. My brother also joined the firm about 20 years ago. So it's my dad, my mom, my brother, and I, but we all do very different things for the company. So while we do all work together as a family, we all kind of are on our own separate islands, which I think is the secret sauce to making it work, working with family. A lot of different opinions, but we're very blessed that we all get along very well. And, we've been on this journey together for quite some time, and we've really enjoyed the ride and where we're headed. After I had children, I really understood the importance of decorating for real life. So I try to listen to my clients and make sure that I'm asking them about their lifestyle, how they live in their house. Do they have a lot of company? Do they entertain a lot? Or do they not? Is it just the 2 of them? They have kind of a quiet lifestyle. For me, that's how I like to start the process with my clients, because it's great if everything looks pretty, but a house needs to function. So for me, I try to harmonize form and function and make sure that we can have a beautiful home, but that everything works the way that you need it to, and that all of your needs are met throughout the house. So it's very important to me to take to heart what my clients' needs are so that I can help them bring their vision for their home to life, and make sure that it's everything that they need it to be. Certainly a challenge for the industry is not only are you doing your job of an interior designer, but you now have to be sort of a wizard of vendors. Who's producing? Who has, the staff to make it happen? What factory's coming through? Do they have issues with their factories right now? So you have to sort of learn, but continue to roll with, okay, this vendor is a year out, so that's not realistic for my project. This vendor has a quick ship program of 4 to 6 months, which is kind of funny because back pre-COVID, that was, oh my gosh, that's such a long lead time. But now 4 to 6 months is like nothing. But so, on top of just your regular job of being an interior designer, you've got to be able to really pivot and understand and have a very good understanding of who can produce materials, who is reliable, and who is coming through. Because on top of all of those issues, we have a tremendous amount of issues with freighters. Damage is sky high at the moment because the truckers are overwhelmed. All the factories are overwhelmed, so they're doing their best that they can to produce the items, but sometimes things fall through the cracks and mistakes happen. So I feel like an unfortunate part of the job right now is following up on damages and things like that, and making sure everybody's coming through on time. So that's the only bit of a headache, but I can understand it from the vendor perspective, because now that I'm in this relationship with Sherrill, business is booming from COVID, which is wonderful, but the labor force is more down than it's ever been. So it's a constant struggle for the vendors to stay on top of their lead time. So it's definitely a push-pull from everybody. Last October, I knew that my collection with Dillard's was coming out in this past March. And so I sort of put a bug in Sherrill's ear. Is the owner's son. And I said, listen, I think it would be a really great idea if I could launch this collection at High Point with a furniture collection, because then it would sort of really round everything out. My collection with Dillard's was a tabletop and home accessory line. So I said, if I could surround it with furniture, I think it would be a great fresh outlook for Sherrill, and obviously great for me. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So he said yes. And we knew that we had to get off and running right away, because it was 6 months until the next market. And to get anything done in 6 months in furniture is sort of unheard of, particularly with case goods, because case goods are imported from overseas. And we all know about the trials and tribulations of getting something from overseas right now. So my first line of attack was to hit the case goods. And they have a wonderful VP named Cindy Hall, who worked really closely with me. And we kind of had to pick things that had realistic timelines for what we could actually get here on time. So we came out with a 15-piece collection. It launched in April market, and I was so happy with the reception. It is a sort of a take on some classic pieces from traditional Southern furniture. I've been dubbed as a grand millennial or a coastal grandmother, which is fine. I think it's hilarious, and I know it's the term that everybody uses. I don't particularly feel that way, because I do think that is a trend, but I understand the trend's roots have, meaning, and they have staying power. They came from the classics, the ruffles, the scallops, chintz, gathered skirts and things like that. So I took what I felt were the basis of that and incorporated it into a furniture collection that is well priced. I brought in a bunch of performance fabrics. And to me, it was very important that the furniture was comfortable and didn't feel too fussy, because a lot of times that grand millennial look can be very fussy and off-putting. And so I wanted to make sure this is something you could put in your family room that you sit on every night with your kids. My April debut was very light and bright and spring forward, because I also wanted it to make sense with my Dillard's palette, which was sort of bright, happy pastel colors, but I want to show the line's versatility. So I've kind of flipped that, and I'm doing some darker colors, just to kind of show that not everything is light and bright and feminine. These pieces can all have different personalities. So we'll have some darker wood finishes, some different textures to the line. I'm bringing in a woven bed and some other woven pieces, some marble. So I've got, I just wanted to introduce some new things to show the versatility of the collection. I think people think that I have like a very jet setting, because I do travel a lot for work. So I'm always moving around and doing different things, but I am a homebody. There's nowhere I would rather be than at home, just kind of laying low with my kids. So as much as I do love to travel for work, I love to be home. I live at the beach, which you can't beat. We have a 10-minute walk to the beach. So really my favorite place in the world to be is home.